When I used to fall ill as a kid, my mother would immediately default to feeding me khichdi. Pulses and rice and a little bit of spice, having a fantastic time in the pressure cooker. And then emerging slightly wasted. I'm not dissing khichdi in case you're a fan, but the Royal Enfield Meteor 350 does remind me somewhat of khichdi. The original Thunderbird, the father of this, it was born in a messy time. It had the bullet chassis and bodywork that aspired to be a Harley Davidson, slightly messy. But because Enfield didn't mess with the bullet frame itself, it actually sort of worked well enough to gain its own fan base and survive. And from that mess emerges the Meteor 350. Important enough that the J series engine, it didn't come out on the classic 350. That would be too big of a bet. It debuted on this. And today, it's become more proportionate. It has a sense of its own personality, a larger sense of performance out on the highway. And while it will never rival the classic 350 for sales, it does have its own precious fan base. Let's have a closer look, shall we? Like the relationship between the Bullet and Thunderbird and then Classic and Thunderbird, the Meteor 350 is very closely related to the Classic 350. You get more or less the same J-series engine, you get the same chassis, and there's only two real changes. The steering geometry is slightly different, it's a little bit more relaxed, and the rear wheel is smaller, and that diameter change gives it a different gearing. Honestly, I was so surprised at how much of a difference these two changes make to the feel of the 350. And since we've covered the J-series engine in detail on the Classic 350 stories, let's focus on the riding experience itself. The first big difference is how you sit. It's sort of upright but in a dished seat, and the handlebar is sort of pulled back to your hands, and your feet are just forward of your knees, half cruiser. Most of you will find that bumpy roads will ignore protocol and want to talk to your spine directly. Not always loudly, but there will be whispers. The second big difference is the gearing and the change it makes to this bike, because this feels a lot more energetic than the Classic 350. You'll be more willing to wring this throttle out, and it has no real vibration or reliability issues, so it will feel completely natural too. And at 80-90 on the highway, this will feel like it wants to overtake more easily than the Classic 350. You want to sit above 100 kmph and cruise, it'll feel like you're in the cardio zone, but it's not like you're breathing hard and uncomfortable. Does that make the Meteor a better bike than the Classic 350 on the highway? I think it does. And there are other small things in there, like the backrest, which makes the pillion's life simpler and mounting luggage easier. A lot of the rest is exactly the same. Service expense, service schedule, reliability, build quality, product quality, finish levels, attention to detail, you name it. In price terms, as befits the opening act of a major band, the Meteor is less expensive than the Classic 350. And if you're thinking about it, ignore this top model. That screen in our heat, it does less work than a flat battery. But if you think this is dull, wake up and pay attention. What we really love about the Meteor is how lively it feels, by itself and as a contrast to the Classic 350. Of course, the performance is not even in the ballpark of what a modern-day 350 should be able to do. The specification is kind of dull on paper too. But take a test ride. There's something very satisfying in the way the Meteor goes about doing things. To return to the khichdi analogy, times have changed. Today, we're ordering all kinds of fancy khichdis off Swiggy. There are specialty restaurants that serve nothing else but upcycled comfort food. To the Thunderbird fans from back in the day, and to you considering a Meteor, that's literally what it is. Comfort food on wheels.